When Mendez finally broke his silence, nobody saw it coming. His single sentence left Yandy in shock, and tears rolled down her face. People began asking themselves, was it an apology, a confession, or something far more heartbreaking? For years, Mendez and Yandy had been one of the most talked about couples in the love and hip hop world. Their relationship had been a mix of love, loyalty, drama, and endless controversy. They stood through storms that would have destroyed most couples. But now, things had reached a point where even the strongest bond seemed ready to break. You won't believe how it all began and how one moment changed everything between them. Let me tell you, this is how their story started to build up towards that shocking confession. Mendez had once been admired for his charm and confidence, and Yandi was loved for her strength and loyalty. Together, they gave fans the picture of a couple who could survive anything. But then came Mendez's legal troubles. His arrest for drug trafficking and the 8-year prison sentence shook their world. Yandi stayed loyal through it all. She raised their children, managed the family, and stood by him when everyone else told her to walk away. Fans saw her as the face of strength, the woman who carried her family on her shoulders. But here is the shocking part. Behind those smiles and brave moments, cracks were forming quietly. When Mendez was in prison, people began to whisper. Rumors spread that Yandi might not have been happy, that maybe she was giving too much and receiving nothing in return. And then one moment during a reunion show made things worse. Mendez admitted he wasn't sure if he would have done the same for Yandi if the roles were reversed. That confession planted a dangerous seed of doubt, not just in Yandi's mind, but in the minds of millions of viewers. What makes this story different? It wasn't only about prison, it was about loyalty and whether it was truly balanced between them. That one sentence began to haunt their relationship, and no matter how much they tried to move forward, it stayed in the background like a shadow. This is where it gets interesting because when Mendez finally came home, fans expected a fairy tale ending. They thought love would conquer everything, that Yandi's sacrifices would finally pay off. But life didn't play out that way. Mendez and Yandi looked happy on social media, but if you watch closely, you could see the tension. Their interviews had awkward moments. Yandi's expressions sometimes told more than her words. And slowly, people began to wonder if their relationship was as perfect as it seemed. Destiny took an unexpected turn when Mendez sat down with Yandi in a quiet setting. Away from the red carpets and big events, it was just them, side by side, with cameras still recording. And that was when he leaned forward and admitted there was something he had never told her. At first, Mendez spoke slowly, almost like he was afraid of his own words. He talked about his past, about the mistakes that had already cost him so much, about the time he lost with his children, and how prison had stripped him to his core. Yandi listened quietly, nodding here and there, thinking it was just another reflection of the pain they had already endured together. But then his voice changed and his eyes locked directly onto hers. He said, "There's something I never told you." In that single moment, Yandi's shoulders tensed, her smile faded, and the air in the room grew heavier. You won't believe how powerful that silence felt. It was as if the world itself had stopped to hear what was about to come next. He admitted that during the early years of his prison sentence, he felt completely cut off, not only from the world, but also from her. And in that emptiness, he made choices he was not proud of. Mendez explained that he hadn't physically crossed any lines, but emotionally, he went places he should never have gone. He had conversations he shouldn't have had, and he created connections with someone else that left a crack in the loyalty Yandi had built so strongly around him. Yandi's eyes watered instantly, but she did not cry right away. She stared at him, steady but broken inside, and finally asked, "Why are you telling me this now?" Her voice was calm, but every word carried pain. But here is the shocking part. Mendez told her he couldn't carry the weight anymore. He said that before they moved forward with new family and business decisions, he had to clear the air. He admitted, "I didn't want to build our future on a lie." That sentence broke Yandi. A single tear rolled down her cheek, quiet and slow, the kind of tear that spoke louder than 1,000 words. The cameras caught it all, and fans who later watched the moment felt the sting of it as if it happened to them. This is where it gets interesting because Yandi's response wasn't filled with shouting or anger. Instead, she spoke with a steady voice, but each word landed like a dagger. She reminded Mendeecees that she had stood by him when the world turned against him. She reminded him of the time she defended him when people called her naive or foolish. And now, after all her sacrifices, he was telling her that while she was carrying the family alone, he was giving his emotions to someone else. The craziest part? Yandi's silence before she spoke again made the moment even heavier. She told him that his timing was a betrayal in itself because he had decided for her when she would know the truth. Mendeecees tried to reassure her, saying he was telling her because he wanted to build a clean future, but the damage had already been done. And then Yandy dropped the line that shook the internet, "You don't get to rewrite the past just because you're ready to tell the truth now." That one sentence spread across social media within hours. Fans clipped it, shared it, and turned it into the defining moment of the confession. Some supported Yandi, others defended Mendeecees, but nobody could deny that what just happened would change everything forever. Just when people thought the storm had reached its peak, the story took another wild turn. A few days after that emotional confession aired, social media exploded with new claims. A woman came forward during an Instagram Live saying she had been emotionally close to Mendeecees while he was in prison. At first, many thought she was just chasing clout, but then she shared dates, late-night call details, and even personal facts about Mendeecees that only someone with access could know. Fans froze in disbelief. You won't believe how quickly the internet split into two sides. Some argued she was lying to grab attention, but others felt her words proved exactly what Yandi had feared. There was more Mendeecees had not confessed. Let me tell you, this is how it got messier. The woman claimed Mendeecees wasn't lying when he said nothing physical happened, but she hinted their connection was far deeper than he admitted. She talked about long conversations, emotional bonding, and even moments where they discussed a future that clearly didn't include Yandy. The craziest part was that her old posts on social media had subtle hints, phrases Mendeecees often used on Love and Hip Hop, private jokes that made people believe she really did have access to him. Fans started digging, comparing her posts with his, and before long, conspiracy threads were all over Twitter. But here is the shocking part. An insider revealed that this same woman had once been in contact with the show's producers. There had even been talks of bringing her on screen for a confrontation, but Yandi refused. This revelation sent shockwaves through the fan base. Did Yandi already know about her long before Mendeecees confessed? Was her pain on camera about fresh betrayal, or was it an old wound she had been quietly carrying? What makes this story different is that it was no longer about just Mendeecees and Yandy. Now, an outsider's voice had entered the narrative, and it threatened to shake the foundation of everything they had shown to the world. Destiny took an unexpected turn when Yandi chose silence. Normally active and open with her followers, this time she posted nothing. No quotes, no cryptic captions, nothing at all. Fans flooded her Instagram with support and questions, but she stayed completely quiet. Meanwhile, Mendeecees posted a short message on his story. "Everything I needed to say, I said to my wife." It was short, but it left behind more questions than answers. This is where it gets interesting, because silence sometimes says more than words. For fans, Yandi's silence felt like confirmation that the wounds were much deeper than anyone imagined. As the dust began to settle, the controversy only grew larger. Social media turned the confession into one of the biggest debates the love and hip-hop universe had ever seen. Hashtags like hashtag pray for Yandy and how you don't get to rewrite the past kept trending, while clips of her calm but powerful response spread like wildfire across TikTok and Instagram. Celebrities also jumped into the conversation. Some shared cryptic posts about trust and betrayal, while others openly supported Yandy. Even podcasts and talk shows picked it up, turning the confession into a lesson about love, loyalty, and emotional cheating. You won't believe how quickly brands even joined in, selling t-shirts with Yandy's words, "I need time," printed across them. What started as a private moment had now turned into a cultural storm. Let me tell you, this is how the story grew beyond just one couple. Relationship experts began analyzing the moment, asking whether delayed honesty could heal or only deepen old wounds. For many fans, it was more than just TV, it felt like real life. Women shared their own experiences of finding out painful truths years later, saying Yandy's strength reminded them of their own struggles. On the other side, some defended Mendeecees, arguing that it took courage to confess even if it came late. But here is the shocking part. What was supposed to be a step towards transparency had now left both of them standing on unshaky ground, their marriage in the middle of a storm they could no longer control. This is where it gets interesting. Privately, sources reveal Yandy and Mendeecees had taken time apart. Not an official separation, but distance to think clearly. Yandy poured herself into her businesses, activism, and children, while Mendeecees stayed quiet, avoiding interviews and keeping low. Fans speculated whether they would continue on the show or step away from the cameras to protect what was left of their marriage. The craziest part, producers reportedly debated bringing the other woman into future episodes, knowing it would skyrocket ratings, but also risking destroying Yandy and Mendeecees completely. Destiny took an unexpected turn, not only for their relationship, but for how millions of people saw them. And what makes this story different is the way it touched everyone. It wasn't just about a celebrity couple anymore. It became a conversation about loyalty, trust, and the cost of telling the truth too late. Viewers saw Yandy not just as a reality star, but as a woman carrying the weight of betrayal with grace. Mendeecees, on the other hand, was seen either as a man brave enough to confess or selfish enough to wait until it suited him. No matter which side people stood on, one thing was clear. The picture-perfect image of their relationship was gone forever. So now the question remains, was Mendeecees' confession a true step toward rebuilding, or was it the final crack that could never be repaired? Should Yandi forgive and move forward, or protect herself and set new boundaries? The answers are still hidden, but one thing is certain. This moment will always be remembered as one of the most emotional and shocking turning points in love and hip-hop history.